if you could afford to live in here, you would be watching a different channel than somebody else. I'm a huge Blade Runner fan, but I'm kind of fans of it in pieces, right? Like, I think the reason it has so much sticking power now is the dystopian noirish aspects of it. Really, that did kind of just set that tone for cyberpunk and all that stuff for like 20 years. So
the object, when I was working on it, you know, I wasn't in the movie business. I didn't particularly care. It was just another design job.
Right.
And so I thought, well, the story is, you know, this is a nasty world. And that's why I could accommodate, because I've been doing illustration for 20 years. That's the story, that's what we illustrate, and you make it up and add things that make it look like you wouldn't want to really be there too long. Right. You know, that was the whole premise. But the reason I think it survives is because, first of all, it's a love story, and it has a moralistic underpinnings of, if we could make people, would we treat them like a dishwasher? Right. You're through with it, you throw it away. Blade Runner, you know, it never violates its own premise, ever, in style and the style set is, it's not anything, it's neo everything. It was a fascinating film to work on, and this was the first cityscape, which Ridley thought wasn't nasty enough, so that's why we went back to this one. And you know, and I was thinking all the time, now this is a residential, let's say a pyramid tower underneath the big tower.
Right.
And I thought, okay, people in this block here are all watching Channel 9, so that would all go blue. And then people here are watching Channel 6, and that would be sort of a pinkish tone, and this would change all the time.
So you were
and I was thinking about how that would look at this scale when you have a whole block of people behind glass looking at one channel. It would all change that color, you know, for that instant.
And so, like, this is the idea that if you could afford to live in here, you would be watching a different channel than somebody else.
Yeah. And this was retrofit, you know, after the building's built, you have to run new channels and stuff. So it was all overlaid.
So this is all just like infrastructural improvements. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because, like, I guess when I saw that, I just presumed that you were just trying to make it look more detailed.
No, there was a thought behind it. Blade Runner had about 5 beginnings. The first one was to Holocaust. The storyboard shows them shoveling these retired replicants down into this furnace.
Okay.
And I was in the meeting when Ridley says, no, we can't do that.
Right.
We really can't do that. So the second version was they were going to show the off-world situation where they kill their squad leader, like the script says.
Right.
Bryant is giving his recitation, and steal the rocket ship and come back to Earth. I actually designed a vehicle with the space suits, the pressure suits, everything to make that shot. That was never shot. That's number 2. This was number 3. Deckard's on the train coming across the desert towards Los Angeles, a very high-speed train. And this was the block. These plates kept rabbits and coyotes from getting killed, and the train would come through, they'd open up, the train goes through, and they'd close shut again.
Right.
And they couldn't afford to lease the train car and dress it and all that, and build the miniature. So that's number 3. The 4th one was on the freeway.
Okay.
And that scene is here.
So what was the time delay on, like, you would come up with the notion for one of these starts and then
about a week and a half, something like that, because they were changing. They were under great duress for financing, first of all. And this was the 4th beginning, when Deckard was going to be in his car. He'd get a note from Bryant or Gaff or somebody saying, pull over to the side, we'll have a spinner come and pick you up, take you down to the police station. That's 4. 5 was the one you saw in the release print. This was what I've envisioned inside the spinner flying through this city street.
Right.
And you'd have port and starboard. And if you can see lights, like here's a red square ahead of you, that means you're supposed to turn right.
Okay.
So that was the same. These would be signs hung on the sides of buildings because
that's what I was
it's an aerial traffic thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
This isn't like a heads up. This is like stuff actually on the building.
Right.
Okay.
And that you could fly through these routes through downtown between these big buildings on a, like an organized airstrip kind of thing. Now we have computer-generated algorithmic face construction and rigging and all that sort of thing. But I put that in there because that's how you recognized aliens or replicants, because their skulls were factory made and they were all genetically identical. The muscles and skin is what made them look different.
Okay.
And you would tell right away by scanning them whether it was a replicant or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like when you're designing this stuff, do you kind of have like the general shape first, and then you're going back and figuring, well, we're going to need
this is
some way
very
to...
different from my first design. Yeah.
Right.
But I suddenly realized you're driving this thing, and you have to look down between it's like a helicopter.
Yeah.
So you can see down between the front wheels and see where you were going.
Yeah.
Instead of having this big hood out in front of you.
You know how much this design ticked me off when I was a kid?
Why?
Because it wasn't a spaceship,
Right.
like it didn't look like a plane like all the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
It looked like a car that had a thing. And now, of course, that's why this still feels like this could be something that will come around in the future, but like a Y-wing doesn't.
It was very carefully designed to be intensely mechanical and also retrofitted.
The streets all feel really narrow in the movie itself.
He had to shoot on the back lot.
Yeah.
And he had to make you feel like everything was pushed in. But Ridley has a talent for getting your mind to be outside the frame. Mm-hmm. Like there's a big world out there, and we just happen to be focused on this narrow shot. He's very good at that. Yeah, he's a genius for that.